Part 11. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 103. Chulan almost burst out laughing. Fortunately, she didn't drink water, otherwise the Empress would have gotten wet on the spot. Damn it, why did you forget to drink water? Chulan suddenly felt that she had lost 100 million. However, it was not very interesting to see the proud and defeated Blackbeard. He obviously wanted to show off his devil fruit ability in front of Whitebeard, and even directly used this special ability to defeat the seriously injured Whitebeard. Who would have expected it? Whitebeard didn't use his powers at all, but just chopped with a knife. Blackbeard doesn't know anything except his devil fruit powers. His fighting ability is far inferior to that of Whitebeard, especially when facing Whitebeard with a knife. He is no match for him. What is going on? Why doesn't Whitebeard use his powers on me? Could it be that he knew about my ability? No, it's impossible. No one except Ace knows about my abilities. After defeating Ace, he was imprisoned in Impel Down. Whitebeard has no way of knowing. Blackbeard suddenly slapped his thigh and realized, so that's it? So he was so seriously injured that he couldn't use his abilities at all. Thinking of this fact, Blackbeard laughed loudly and said angrily, "Boys, come with me. If you kill Whitebeard, he won't be able to use his abilities." Seeing that he couldn't kill Whitebeard with his own hands, Blackbeard decisively wavered. There were so many awesome younger brothers behind him, so it would be useless if he didn't use them. "Boss, that's not necessarily the case. I can't withstand Whitebeard's blow." Devil Sheriff Lafitte reluctantly said, "I'm just a little pirate with a bounty of more than 40 million yuan. Rest assured," Blackbeard smiled ferociously, "don't you still know my abilities? He can't use it." "Ah, that's it, I forgot about it." Everyone raised their weapons and rushed towards Whitebeard, but the moment they took action, a figure suddenly appeared in front of everyone. They were a group of beautiful women wearing maid uniforms. Oh, where did this beautiful little girl come from?" Katerina said in surprise. "Ahem, a rare race, an experimental subject." The ship's Dr. Duque, who was riding a mule and could die of illness at any time, said with a smile. "The Fur tribe, the Mermaid tribe, the Skywing tribe, and many other races that I have never seen before." Zillia bit the cigar in his mouth. "Why do they gather together? No matter what, kill them all." "Ahahaha!" Fighting champion Giza's Badges raised his fist and hit Lifa directly in front of him. Lifa looked up disdainfully at the huge fist falling from the sky. Her expression did not change. She just raised the hammer in her hand and faced it. A mere 20 million berries of garbage. A huge explosion sounded, and the ground where Lifa was standing was shattered, but Lifa's petite body was not blown away by the punch. The fighting champion was stunned for a moment. He was able to withstand my punch, a good opponent. With added force in his hand, Giza's Badges was about to smash the girl in front of him into the soil. Unfortunately, this could only be his wishful thinking. The hammer in Lifa's hand suddenly became larger, even exceeding the size of his body. Garbage is, after all, just garbage. The sledgehammer swung, and the domineering hammer blasted away his fist, hit him hard on the face, and sent his whole body flying. On the side, although the battles of other maids were not so crushing, there was a slight disadvantage, but no one could take a step forward. Blackbeard's face darkened on the spot. Where did these daughters come from, and why did they stop him? Could it be that they were Whitebeard's daughters? Blackbeard's eyes widened. Looked at Whitebeard in shock. In all these years, he had never seen Whitebeard take in daughters. All he took were sons. So, was it a hidden hand? Blackbeard roared, "Whitebeard, even if they are your daughter, I alone can take your life." This sentence stirred up 1,000 waves, and all the pirates who heard this were shocked. "What, Dad actually has a daughter?" "That's right, how could Dad only accept his son?" Could the one in the middle with the sledgehammer be the captain of Team Zero? Do we, the Whitebeard pirates, still have Division Zero? Of course there is, idiot. For a while, the pirates were talking about it, and Whitebeard himself was a little confused. Could it be that he really took in his daughter? I don't remember. Warring State stood on the high platform with a black face, Qing's Haiqiang holding back his laughter, he almost couldn't hold it back. Akainu had fallen into the sea and was being fished out by a group of navy soldiers. Kizaru looked at the scene in front of him with great interest. The most confused person on the scene was Maggie, everyone present among the people, she should be the only one who has seen everyone in the Hulan maid group. She can tell at a glance that the person standing in the field at this moment is the battle maid from the Hulan Pleiades star cluster. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Da-ei Tianlong. Chapter 104. Whitebeard. A voice suddenly came into everyone's mind. Chu Lan left the soft and comfortable sofa and walked to the high platform, looking down at everyone. Beside him, the pirate empress, Boya Hancock, was gently holding her arm. Chu Ian's arms were clinging to his side like a bird. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Chu Lan, and he said loudly, "Whitebeard, I gave you the chance to kill the traitor, don't let me down." Whitebeard looked up at the man who had a frivolous tone, but looked arrogant, even surpassing Roger's domineering figure when he was young. As a true king of the sea, facing such commanding words, he couldn't get angry at all. He laughed a few times, swung his sword, and said cheerfully, "Boy, watch out." Blackbeard hurriedly responded to the challenge, but without the blessing of ability, and without the help of his men, he was unable to resist at all, and was retreating steadily under Whitebeard's offensive. After barely dodging Whitebeard's attack again, Blackbeard realized he can no longer retreat like this, he must take action to seize the initiative. At least he must hold on until at least one of his men defeats the group of maids to help him. Only in this way can he help himself. Dark Ache appointment. Blackbeard waved his hand, and boundless darkness overflowed from his body, swallowing himself and the surrounding ground, and even spread to Whitebeard's position at an extremely fast speed. "Is this what you are capable of?" Tiki, Whitebeard was not surprised but overjoyed. He clenched his right fist, faced the incoming darkness, and gave it a hard blow. The space burst, and the spreading boundless darkness was also eliminated, and a huge shockwave flew towards Blackbeard. "How is that possible? Aren't you unable to use the fruit's abilities?" Blackbeard's face changed drastically, and he stretched out his hands in front of his face. "Goo la la la, teach, who told you that I can't use my powers?" Dark water. The invisible shockwave came into contact with Tiki's hands, and then suddenly dissipated. It did not cause any harm to him, but the space and buildings around him were all shattered. Tiki's dark fruit ability is very practical and can resist the absorption of the fruit. Attack, but can only absorb attacks in a small range. However, this range is enough to protect himself. Blackbeard slowly opened his eyes and found that Whitebeard's ability could not cause any harm to him. After the shock, he was ecstatic. "Gee ha 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 ha, Whitebeard, is this your strength? But that's it?" Whitebeard was not annoyed at all. He raised his head and took a deep look at Chu Lan. He completely believed what Chu Lan said before. Tikai's ability was actually what he said. If he had just used his fists and abilities to attack Tikai, with his current seriously injured body, it is very likely that he is really no match for Teach. It seems that being too confident in his own fruit ability may also be a shortcoming. It may be for this reason that Ace was caught by Teach. Thinking of Ace, Whitebeard became even more angry. He held the big knife in his hand tighter. Without another word, he picked up Kong Yunkai and slashed at Blackbeard again. Chu Lan looked at the battlefield below, her maids. Although he is very strong, he is still too young and weaker than those prisoners who have been locked up in LV6 for a long time. Except for Li Fa, everyone else was in a hard fight. Chu Lan raised his hand, most of the anxious maids behind them separated again and went down to help. This time, everyone's battle was restored to balance. Blackbeard hurriedly avoided Whitebeard's attack, but his eyes kept watching the battlefield. Seeing that his men were about to, he was so happy to get rid of those troublesome maids. He never expected that at the next moment, several cute maids would join the battlefield, once again bringing the battle back to an even level. "Damn it," Blackbeard yelled angrily, and finally turned to look at the figure standing on the high platform. "Who are you? Why do you want to stop me?" Chu Lan smiled and shook her head, and her voice, which was low but clear, reached Blackbeard's ears. "The story needs suspense, but reality does not need it. A traitor can get benefits and live to the end. This is not the ending I like." Blackbeard dodged Whitebeard's sword again, and looked at Chu Lan angrily and aggrievedly, but there was nothing he could do. He just tried his best to deal with Whitebeard, and he still didn't use his fists to fight with him in close combat, he just used the sword. "Cut yourself. His abilities are of no use at all. He can only retreat under Whitebeard's offensive. There is no chance to get revenge on Chu Lan on the high platform, not to mention that there are pirates standing next to Chu Lan Empress." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 105. Damn it, damn it. Tiki is going crazy. Not only has he caused such a big trouble for himself, but the most beautiful woman in the world, the pirate empress, is still clinging to his side. That is obviously the woman I can get. Hancock looked down upon him. He glanced at Blackbeard. Even though the battle was fierce, he still had a look of disgust on his face and couldn't stand it. He turned around to admire Chu Ian's beauty, and couldn't help himself. The battle below became more and more intense, and the battle place between Whitebeard and Blackbeard kept moving. Finally, they came to a place near the edge of the bay. Both of them are devil fruit users, and there is no way to retreat at this moment. Whitebeard slashed at a tricky angle, and Teach finally staggered, unable to dodge, and was slashed directly on his body. Although he was not seriously injured, this blow still completely destroyed his ability to dodge the next attack. As a veteran pirate who has experienced many battles, Whitebeard has experienced many more battles than Teach, a coward. It is impossible to miss such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He cut off with a knife and forced Tiki to move. At the same time, he stretched out his left hand and grabbed his head when Tiki couldn't react. Tiki's dark water can only be passed through his hands. Use it to eliminate the ability of the Esper, but his face does not have this function. Even his darkness fruit cannot offset the attacks through elemental changes. Even if it can absorb the attacks, his face is facing Whitebeard's attacks. It is impossible to completely offset it. Die. Whitebeard didn't hesitate at all. He knew Tiki's ability and knew that he couldn't give him any chance to let his hands touch him. The moment he grabbed his head, a huge shockwave condensed in the palm of his hand and burst out instantly. Tiki's head hit the ground hard, and the impact exploded. Under the palm of Whitebeard's hand, Tiki instantly bled from all his orifices, and the back of his head hit the stone, directly shattering the hard stone slab, and a huge deep pit was formed with his head as the center suddenly appeared. One layer, one layer, one layer after another. In the palm of Whitebeard's hand, shock waves came one after another, constantly bombarding him. Countless blood spurted out from Blackbeard's body, and Tiki was under the impact. He was close to fainting, but the severe pain kept him awake for the last time. At this critical last moment, the violence hidden deep in his heart exploded. He raised his right leg and kicked Whitebeard's chest hard. The wound. Unbearable pain came from the wound. Whitebeard couldn't help but let go of his left hand holding Teach's head, but he did not fall down due to such an attack. Teach, this is your weak nature. Whitebeard supported his scarred body, grasped the handle of the knife tightly with both hands, raised it high, aimed at Tikai's bloated body, and slashed down hard. This is the end, it? No. Tikai barely opened his eyes and was filled with that ray of cold light. He felt the pain coming from his abdomen and he shouted in pain. However, the huge naginata directly penetrated his entire body and nailed him to the ground, unable to move. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Tikai's mouth, splattering all over Whitebeard's chest. Whitebeard's beard, which had one of its branches broken during the battle, trembled slightly. It was a tremor of joy, and a low laugh came from Whitebeard's mouth. Getting louder and louder. Finally, it resounded throughout the entire battlefield. Everyone stopped fighting, everyone stopped escaping, all the pirates, all the navy, everyone's eyes fell on one white and one black, on the former father and son. The corners of Blackbeard's mouth were constantly bleeding, and the naginata inserted in his body kept sending bursts of intense pain. He looked at Whitebeard in front of him and saw the stern expression on his face. My body couldn't help but tremble. I felt the passage of my life, and I could no longer pretend to be that arrogant bully. My original nature was exposed again, and my nose and tears flowed out along with the blood, and I cried and begged for mercy. Dad, don't kill me, I'm your son. You can't kill me, you can't kill me. Whitebeard also coughed up a mouthful of blood, took a deep breath, and spoke after a long time. Tick, the moment you killed your companions with your own hands, you were no longer my son. Only you are not qualified to be my son. No, Dad, I was wrong, I was really wrong, spare my life, spare my life. Tikai looked at Whitebeard's slowly clenched right hand, struggling wildly regardless of the pain in his body, but he was thrust into the ground by the naginata and couldn't resist at all. This last punch is for ace. The shockwave lingered on the right fist, and Whitebeard punched it down without mercy. Tikai, die. No. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 106. Blackbeard's eyes showed despair, and his pupils instantly dilated when he saw the punch that was hit hard at him. He knew that if this punch explained, he would definitely die. The strong desire to survive made him forget the pain, and he could no longer care about anything else. He raised his hands suddenly, liberation. Darkness overflowed from his body, and Whitebeard's final blow hit him at this moment. The space shattered, darkness rolled, and within the darkness, the remnants of countless objects previously absorbed by Blackbeard were released, constantly shattering and disappearing under Whitebeard's attacks. However, this also successfully resisted Whitebeard's attack for Blackbeard. After an unknown amount of time, the deep darkness dissipated and the space returned to its original state. Pity. There was a hint of regret in Whitebeard's eyes, and he closed them slowly. Under him, Blackbeard was dripping with blood, and his whole body was cracked. It could be said to be scarred. As long as he added any more attacks, he died on the spot. However, he survived. Just a little bit, Whitebeard's attack can kill him directly. Gee ha ha cough cough cough. Tick cheered for his survival. I survived, I survived. He opened his eyes and looked at the old man who had closed his eyes. From such a close distance, he could not feel a trace of Whitebeard's breath. All this shows that this former maritime overlord is the most powerful in the world. The man is dead. Blackbeard was so happy that even if he was seriously injured, as long as the ship's doctor Poison Q was there, he would never die. Otherwise, why would he give priority to looking for the crew? Where is the ship's doctor? Although scary, his weird medical skills will definitely allow him to survive. A voice suddenly sounded in his ears, asking Whitebeard died, but he was lucky enough to escape. Now, right, very happy. Of course. Blackbeard answered without hesitation, but then he was stunned. This voice did not belong to any of his crew members, but it seemed a little familiar, as if he had heard it not long ago. Teach's eyes raised, and what caught his eye was with a face that could eat food. He slowly opened his mouth wide. This face was so familiar to him. Before he even appeared on the stage, he had been warned by the prisoners at level 6, and he saw that person in the distance. As Whitebeard fought, he even saw Chulan inserting 2 knives into Whitebeard's body with his own eyes. After that, he saw Hancock beside him, and his jealousy was uncontrollable. He even knew that the man in front of him was not an ordinary Navy man, he was a celestial dragon. When Blackbeard thought of his identity, he was no longer afraid. He had nothing to do with Chulan, even if he coveted Hancock. Heart, but it didn't show it. In this case, a woman is no longer important at all. What's more, the man in front of him is still a celestial dragon. He snatched a woman from a celestial dragon, but he didn't get the Zhen fruit, or even the One Piece before. I would never have dared to think of it. Dear Lord Tianlong, Whitebeard is dead. Tikai didn't ask stupid questions like whether he came to save himself. He knew that the celestial dragons were a group of cold-blooded creatures. All humans were slaves in their eyes, and they didn't care about their life or death at all. They only regarded him as to confirm the life and death of his previous opponent, Whitebeard. Don't worry, he's not dead yet, he still has his last breath. Blackbeard was suddenly startled and struggled in fear. Chulan held down his head and comforted him, don't be afraid, he has no ability to do anything anymore. Being able to stand here is his last pride. Blackbeard slowly stopped struggling, glanced at Whitebeard fearfully, and complimented Honorable Lord Tianlong, we are all Whitebeard's opponents. I have no strength left. Please do the last blow. Opponent, Chulan couldn't help but sneered, just you. Blackbeard tilted his head in confusion, and saw Chulan take out an exquisite pistol-like thing from his arms and stuff it into his mouth. Also worthy. Boom. 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 Continuous gunshots rang out. Before Blackbeard had time to think, a huge smell of gunpowder suddenly filled his mouth. A huge impact burst through this compact firearm, without giving him any time to react. Everyone was shocked. In his gaze, Blackbeard's head exploded in an instant. The darkness blocked Chulan in time, and the splattered blood fell into the darkness and disappeared. Not a drop fell on Chu Ian's body. Stella's face was behind him. He waved his hand expressionlessly. The corners of the Whitebeard's mouth were slightly raised, giving a small but very happy smile. Ha 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 ha. The laughter got louder and louder, and everyone could feel the joy in Whitebeard's wanton laughter. He supported Kong Yunqi to stand upright, facing the east, his eyes seemed to travel through space, look at a real place. He shouted loudly. One Piece. It's real. The remnant of the old era, the 4 emperors, the strongest man in the world, the captain of the Whitebeard pirates. Whitebeard, Edward Newgate. Dead. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 107. Chulan couldn't help but get wet in her eyes when she looked at the man who was still standing on the battlefield even after his death. Whitebeard is worthy of his title of king. The Whitebeard pirates will always be the Whitebeard pirates. Chulan chuckled and whispered, I don't want it anymore. No one heard it, and no one believed it. Whitebeard's last words were to entrust the pirate group to a celestial dragon. Chulan raised his steps lightly and walked up to the sky step by step. Facing the battlefield. Everyone, declare loudly. The war is over. At this point, the biggest battle since the beginning of the Great Pirate Age. The war on the top of Marina Vando has come to an end. All this will be recorded in history forever. At the same time, not far outside of Marina Vando, A red pirate ship was sailing rapidly. The unique skull logo shows the identity of the owner of this ship. One of the four emperors, Shanks. At this moment, Shanks' expression was anxious, and he didn't have the usual carefree feeling at all. There were also some signs of injuries on the people on the ship. Although they were actively dealing with it, some could still be seen. After learning about the war between Whitebeard and the Navy, he rushed to Malinfando immediately in order to stop the war. However, although the four emperors were called the Four Emperors, they did not have a friendly relationship with each other. Instead, they had competition and even considerable hatred. Such is the hatred between Shanks and Kaido. On his way to assist Whitebeard, the fleet was blocked by Kaido's fleet, which delayed a lot of time. Although Kaido retreated in the end, if he hadn't stopped Shanks, he would have arrived at Marinefando and been watching the battle from a distance. Judging from the feeling of the action, he knew that it was Whitebeard who was taking action. But just when he was about to arrive at the Bayport, the fluctuations of the battle suddenly stopped. At this time, Shanks was a little panicked. Could it be that the Navy was wiped out by the regiment? Impossible, Shanks immediately shook his head. No matter how strong Whitebeard was, Garp was still there, and the Navy could not be defeated so easily. Shanks thought of another possibility, but he couldn't believe it either. Thinking of the scene when he met Whitebeard last time, and the medical instruments inserted into his body could no longer withstand too much torture. "Whitebeard, are you defeated?" Shanks murmured something in a low voice, waved his hand and ordered, "Go ahead at full speed." "Yes." The crew members agreed, and they all quickly sailed towards the destination that was just around the corner. Malinfando. In this battle, Malinfando was completely on the verge of being broken, and after this, it will be completely pushed off the stage of history. But at this moment, it is still the center of the world. Chulan kicked Blackbeard's body away. Chulan didn't even bother to ask for his body and devil fruit abilities. Whitebeard's body was still standing, but his eyes were not open as before, but closed peacefully. Chulan ordered the maid behind him take Whitebeard's body away and treat all the wounds. "Yes, Lord Chulan." The two maids came forward and took his body away. Stella stood beside Chulan and asked quietly, "Master Chulan, Whitebeard's devil fruit ability?" Chulan glanced at her and shook her head gently. Stella immediately understood what Chulan meant. Although Whitebeard's devil fruit ability is very powerful and very tempting, no matter who it is, as long as he gets this ability, he can become one of the strongest in the world in an instant. If not, why would Blackbeard rack his brains to steal Whitebeard's fruit ability? However, no matter how powerful this fruit is, Chulan does not intend to take it. No one will know, and no one dares to say anything. This is respect for men, this is respect for a truly strong man. If you are unscrupulous for the sake of being strong, what is the difference between it and animals? Or simply in other words, it's so out of character. Chulan thought so, but the captains of the Whitebeard pirates around him were not so impressive. When Marco saw his father's body being taken away, he spread his wings and rushed forward, "Give me your father's body." The hammer in Tina's hand grew larger, and she blasted him into the ground with one hammer. Chulan glanced at him condescendingly, and said flatly, "Do you want your father to go back with scars all over his body?" Marco choked and said angrily, "I don't want to, but..." Rest assured, Chulan squatted down, patted his shoulder, and said, "Before he died, he entrusted the pirate group to me. Although I have no interest in this, I accept his love. After I pack him up, I'll send him home." Chulan turned and left. This is my respect for a man. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Tianlong. Chapter 108. The battle ended, and Shanks arrived belatedly. Whitebeard's body will be taken away and properly placed. Although there is no maid who specializes in beautification work in this area, after all, Chulan does not intend to consider her own aftermath. However, although the recovery fruit cannot revive people, it is still effective in repairing scars on the body. If you use this function to make money, you can definitely make a lot of money. What kind of medical aesthetic plastic surgery, all the way to the back? The moment they disembarked, everyone's eyes on the battlefield were focused on him. Even those who were hesitating whether to talk to Chulan to discuss the ownership of Whitebeard's body or the use of his devil fruit ability were all focused on him. When collecting, the red pirate ship docked next to the bay. Under the leadership of Shanks, a group of big pirates filed out of the ship, stood in a row, and made a cool pose. Loneliness is like snow. No one paid any attention to them. Shanks was also confused. Instead of seeing a raging war scene, he could see an orderly retreat scene. The pirates were retreating one after another, and the Marines were walking across the battlefield to treat the wounded in the Navy. The two passed by each other, glanced at each other, and then turned around to continue their work. When several captains of the Whitebeard pirates passed by Shanks, they looked at him with surprise, and some even looked at him with obvious hostility, which seemed to mean, "Why did you come just now? What's the point of coming now?" Chulan was not surprised by Shanks' arrival. As a man who could turn the tide, his strength should not be underestimated, but at this moment, there was no turning tide for him at all. Chulan even wanted to laugh a little. Shanks' figure appeared in front of Chulan. He did not go to see Warring States immediately, although the leader of this war was Marshal Warring States. But he knew very well that Chulan was here and the real person in charge was Chulan. After all, it is impossible for the Marshal of the Warring States period to disobey Chulan at will, not to mention that Chulan is still his good brother. The war seems to be over, and there is no need for him to mediate. What happened? Is the war over? Shanks stood in front of Chulan and asked doubtfully, "Where is Whitebeard?" Chulan stretched out her right hand, shook hands with him in good faith, and hugged him happily despite the black line on Shanks' face. "You came a little late. The war is over. Whitebeard died in the battle and his body has been taken away by me for preservation." Chulan patted him on the shoulder, "Little brother, it shouldn't be possible for Kaido to do this to you." Shanks slapped his hand away angrily and said, "I'm several rounds older than you." Chulan smiled and said nothing. Shanks continued, "That guy Kaido has become stronger. He brought all the pirate groups to stop me and come to the aid of Whitebeard. A dragon keeps disgusting me in the air. Why don't you just chop off his dragon head? That dragon is really fake." Chulan couldn't help complaining. Kaido turned into a dragon. Although it was a traditional five-clawed golden dragon, not a Western big-bellied flying dragon. But his body shape and actual appearance are really not good enough. Purple is obviously one of the most noble colors, but it gives him the air of a murderous country bumpkin. "You can kill if you can," Shanks said speechlessly, "although I am not a devil fruit user and I am not afraid of sea water, I can't fly either. He flies in the sky and spits fire. What can I do? I can't kill him at all." "Tisk, tisk, tisk, give you another hand, can you beat him?" Chulan asked. This is not the first time he has asked this question. He has asked it before, but Shanks did not give an answer. "Thank you for your kindness, but it is better not to recover my hand." Shanks said freely, "I put this hand on the hope of the new generation. Your hope for a new era has been forcibly taken away by his grandfather. If it weren't for our relationship, I would have killed him with one knife." Chulan slandered, but did not say this. After all, he did not offend himself. Under the circumstances, he was not ready to kill this guy. People with face fruit abilities should still give some face. After that, Chulan briefly introduced the situation of the war to the red hair. It was obviously a very serious war, but the result it ended in such a short period of time. I can only say that this day was really long. Ordinary soldiers and pirates are just delivering food, but high-end combat power determines everything. After listening to this, the red-haired man found that he had nothing to do at all. For AI he didn't care much about C's life and death. After all, Luffy was his true son. He came in a hurry and left in a hurry. Chulan rejected Shanks' suggestion to follow him to meet Marijo and drink. This guy's drinking capacity, no matter what, Chulan still knows how drunk the crew behind him is. He wants to steal the wine I brewed, just dream. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Da-ei Tianlong. Chapter 109. Shanks left, ignoring Sengoku, and left directly. Marshal of the Warring States period stood on the high platform, his face as cold as ice. He turned around and left without even saying hello to him. He was really disrespecting himself. That is to say, he has a good temper, otherwise he would definitely take action and put Shanks in impel-down prison. Chulan patted Shanks on the shoulder, took the jar of wine thoughtfully handed over by the maid behind him, and sent him away. It is not advisable to stay here for a long time. Shanks sat on the boat and left with satisfaction. He only had to deal with the aftermath, and it didn't matter to him. Forget it if the pretense didn't work, you still want me to do other things? It doesn't take much effort for labor and management to beat Kai. Is there no charge for tolls? Speaking of tolls, he turned around and looked around and asked, "Where's Luffy? Don't even come out to see me." Chulan gave him a chop without mercy. "Are you suffering from Alzheimer's disease? They all told me to go home after being fucked by me." Shanks scratched his head and blocked the attack. "Did you say it?" "Didn't I say that?" Chulan was too lazy to talk to him. She stopped her maid's slim waist and disappeared from the battlefield. She had finished watching the show and it was very comfortable to watch. Everything after that had nothing to do with him. What about endings, pensions, etc.? Yes, those are all things that need to be considered in the Warring States period. Holy Land Marijoa. Chulan was lying comfortably in the bathtub, pillowing on the Empress's head pad, surrounded by maids who were massaging her. This is life. Chulan couldn't help but sigh. What's the point of fighting and killing every day? What's the point of floating on the sea every day? Wouldn't it be nice to lie in a castle, drunk and dreamy? If this none of them taste good, so why didn't the ancient emperors go to sea? After a big battle, Chulan really made a great effort this time. If it weren't for him, this battle might have lasted longer, causing more injuries. After relaxing comfortably for a while, the Empress did not pay attention to the movements of the little mermaid girl underwater, but actively studied and gained a lot of new knowledge. In the evening, she tried it with Chulan. Chulan said that Shiji's tongue was indeed not a common thing. Early the next morning, the darkness shrouding the castle dissipated, and Stella went to her room to sleep. The movement last night was too great, even if she stayed in the bedroom in the living room, even through two doors, Shiji's voice could not be blocked. Although they are both women, Snake G's charm can be said to be suitable for both men and women. Even she is a little blushing. Only such a woman can be worthy of her own family. Dear Lord Chulan. Stella left with a red face. Under the service of the maid, Chulan and the Empress washed themselves up and had a sumptuous breakfast. When they came to this place that the Empress was once afraid of, they naturally had to take her with them. She got rid of her fear. Even if she killed the celestial dragon who had abused her, the fear still could not be completely dissipated. The best way was to take her back to her old place and let her see the beauty here. Your own woman must always be right. She is better. Especially for beautiful women, when you are still free, this kind of thing will make you more comfortable at night and actively unlock more postures. Walking on the spacious avenue, the sun shines on the red earth continent, without a trace silk clouds. The empress suggested to see the place where the slaves were once stored. Although it was burned down by a fire, Chulan later rebuilt it. Of course, it was not used to re-incarcerate the slaves, but transformed into a gym. That's right. Is the gym. Chulan even assigned tasks to all the Tianlong people. They have to come to exercise 2 days a week. If they do not complete it, they will be severely punished. At the beginning, there were still a few Tianlong people who refused to accept and were sent to the gym. After pushing forward the city as a warning, no one was dissatisfied. There was no need for Chulan to urge them, and even the maid who was used to supervise them had nothing to do. These people completed the exercise on time and in the right amount. When exercise became a habit, these Tianlong people are more willing to exercise. To a certain extent, it has solved the bloated and useless body of the Tianlong people and improved Chu Yian's senses. At least the Tianlong people's figures are better. Walking into the gym, her body was still trembling a little, but after seeing the shirtless Tianlong people exercising enthusiastically, her fear suddenly dissipated. This scene, it's really a bit eye-catching. The moment all the Tianlong people saw Chu Yian's appearance, their exercise intensity immediately increased, and no one dared to be lazy anymore. Even the people who were originally not allowed to be in the last group have unleashed all their potential and come to another group. Chulan nodded with satisfaction and took Shiji out of the former prison and now the gym. How is it? Are you satisfied? Chulan asked with a smile. Hancock wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and was speechless with a smile. Let's go, Chulan held her hand and said. Let me show you the true beauty of Mary Joa. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 110. The beauty of the Holy Land Marijoya is dazzling. It is well deserved to be the most beautiful and prosperous city in the world. It has everything you can think of. Riding the turtle slice, the two of them visited the entire Marijoya along the edge of the Red Continent. Of course, limited to the urban area, the Red Earth continent is too vast to be visited in one day. That is a huge mountain range that spans the entire world and separates the entire sea. Even the 20 people at the beginning could only occupy the best place to build a city. At night, under the service of the maid, the two had dinner under the starlight, and Chulan took her deep into Pangu city. In addition to a huge straw hat, there is also the most beautiful flower in the world. As for, I'm sorry, she fell asleep. Yumu is not an easy character to get along with. Chulan still doesn't know her true strength, but can only confirm that her gender is female. However, from all aspects, her strength cannot be said to be very strong. She plays more of a role as the mastermind behind the scenes. His strength is about the same as Whitebeard's. Standing in front of the last gate of Pangu city, Chulan rubbed his chin. He was about as strong as Whitebeard. He seemed to be quite awesome. Be swollen, and be humble, Chulan muttered. Husband, what are you talking about? Hancock asked. After these 2 days of education, Hancock has successfully changed the title. Master Chulan is too raw and emotionless. But the word sir cannot be removed. Chulan also tried to ask Hancock to call daddy. Shiji said that she had no shame at all and shouted out easily. The result, Chulan doesn't feel like chicken jelly at all. It's okay, open this door and you will see the most beautiful flowers in the world. Chulan stretched out her hand and pushed open the huge stone door in front of her. A harsh creaking sound sounded, and a dazzling light emerged from behind the door. An extremely huge flower reflected in Snakeji's star-like eyes, adding a touch of beauty. Indescribable depth. Shiji was immersed in this unparalleled dream scene. Chulan also looked at the huge flower that seemed to be suspended in the air. Deep in its stamens, a faint figure flashed and disappeared. When I saw this flower for the first time, I couldn't help but be attracted to it because it was so dreamy and beautiful. When Chu Lan saw it for the first time, she was also shocked by its beauty. But after all, he is a new boy in the 21st century, and his ability to accept things is much stronger, and he is not addicted to it. Otherwise, if no one wakes him up, he may have died. However, he finally woke up, and it was also in that time, he met Yimyu. The two did not have any unnecessary exchanges. Chu Lan was not very strong at that time, but Yimyu also did not take action out of fear. Being able to appear quietly in the center of the flower, appeared in Pangu City, this was impossible to happen. She did not detect any information at all. In this case, there was only one possibility. She determined that Chu Lan appeared from the deepest part of Pangu City. Chu Lan gently pushed the Empress awakening. In her shock and confusion, he took her away from the depths of Pangu City. Seeing such beautiful scenery once was enough. Even if Yumu did not dare to do anything to Chu Lan, she was the biggest otaku in Pangu City after all. As a senior otaku, I have to give her some face no matter what. She didn't come outside to interfere with her actions, and even took the initiative to cover up. When Wulaoxing reported to her, she said a lot of good things. Mutual benefit, you can bring people to see it yourself, but if you stay for a long time, the otaku's social phobia will break out. Unlike the Adam's tree that is full of devil fruits, this flower is something that humans can watch, and even has a strong influence on it. The improvement has a certain effect, but you can't look at it for too long. As for the Adam's tree, it is not something that humans can touch, at least not something that Chu Lan can touch now. Although she knows where it is, she can't go there now, pick some fruits and squeeze the juice to drink. This is a pity. Tina, call Vegapunk. How is the production of the Pathfinder robot I want? After walking out of the depths of Pangu City, Chu Lan immediately ordered. Since humans can't pry into the secrets of the depths of hell, let's let machines that have no intelligence and won't be deceived do it. I watched a video, and it wasn't even a live broadcast. It's okay to watch a video, right? Technology changes life, and technology can also spy on the gods, and even the abyss. In Chu Ian's view, the ability of the devil fruit is not the ability of the gods at all, because he does not believe in the gods at all. Then it is the ability of the abyss demon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 111. Yes. Tina took the order and went directly to the Navy Marshal. In order to prevent Chu Lan from asking Vegapunk to do some insignificant things before the war, he was sent to a secret base by the Warring States period. Even Chu Lan didn't know what he was hiding. Where are they? The war is over, and Chu Lan will naturally start to do his own business. The second generation of pacifists will be something that will come in handy 2 years later. There is no need to worry at all now. All the way back to the castle, Snake Princess finally came to his senses. Lord Chu Lan, what happened? I saw a flower, a huge flower. Hancock said fearfully. In front of it, I felt so helpless to resist. Chu Lan patted her catkins, smiled and comforted. It's okay, it's just a flower. Seeing that Hancock's mood was slightly calmer, Chu Lan asked, how is it? Does it look good? Hancock tilted his head, carefully recalling the scene he saw and the magical experience, and suddenly laughed. It's beautiful. That's good. Darkness enveloped the world, and the two of them hugged each other and fell on the bed next to each other. Early the next morning. After many exercises, the Empress was no longer the weak little girl she was at the beginning. Her physical fitness determined that she was a very strong person. High-quality paddy fields are not easy to damage at all, and their recovery ability is also very strong. After washing and having breakfast, Chu Lan sent her on a warship. She was upright and not lecherous. No one knew whether she was interested in men or not. Vice Admiral Rad was waiting on the deck early. Today is the day Hancock leaves? When the two encountered the Golden Lion, her pirate ship and the two snakes pulling the ship unfortunately disappeared. After that, the Navy has been searching, and finally news came this morning and the specific location was found. But the two snakes did not recognize the Navy who came to rescue them. Their seriously injured bodies pulled the damaged ship and fled quickly. The Navy had no choice but to notify headquarters and let Hancock personally recover her ship. The two obedient snakes had already been Hancock's partners, so naturally she couldn't let go. Without any delay, she decided to set off early this morning. Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel took her there in a warship, and it was Chu Ian's special warship, so that she could catch up with the two little snakes as quickly as possible. Provide treatment as soon as possible. According to feedback from the Navy, the two snakes were completely exhausted. In an ocean filled with countless ferocious creatures, injured animals are the best prey. Husband, you must come to me. Hancock hugged Chu Lan and was about to cry. If those two snakes hadn't followed her for so many years, Hancock would have wanted them to fend for themselves. Isn't it just a boat? Just build another one. You can still get branches from the atom tree or something like that if you want. Don't worry, just wait for me. Chu Lan touched her head, causing the Navy soldiers on the side to cry loudly. If they hadn't known the identity of the person in front of them, they would have fallen to the ground and pounded the floor. Just here, there were still people coming from the deck. I jumped down and couldn't bear to see such a scene. There was no touching farewell scene. After kissing Hancock's smooth forehead, Chu Lan turned around and walked out of the warship. The ship slowly left the port. Hancock waved his little hand, no, say goodbye. After the warship disappeared on the coastline, Chu Lan took a deep breath, her big turtle swayed in the wind, and she turned around and left with large strides. Vegapunk has arrived. Let him come to see me immediately. A new plan is about to begin. I obey, Master. Chu Lan. The maids stood at attention and saluted together. Marijoa, underground. Secret base. Not under Pangu City, but in another relatively remote area. A very luxurious villa stands here, with a smooth and flat cliff in front of it. This is a vacation place that Chu Lan occasionally comes to. Of course, the so-called vacation place is just a cover-up. In fact, there is a very advanced laboratory underground. It is said to be a cover-up, but in fact it is just to have a cover-up attitude. In Marijoa, even it is said that in this world, no one can control Chu Lan. He can do whatever he wants. But this kind of life is also very boring. In order to add some fun to his boring life, Chu Lan added there are some restrictions. For example, if you build a secret laboratory now, it must be built underground. There are also quite tight guards and a lot of protective facilities. Although it is of no use, it looks cool. Take the elevator and go underground an area of 300 meters. Here, inhuman and horrific experiments are being carried out. Vegapunk was already standing in front of the door of the laboratory waiting. When he saw Chu Lan emerging from the elevator, his whole body suddenly trembled. He was flattering and sweet. The voice sounded. Master Chu Lan. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 112. Bang. Roll. Chu Lan subconsciously kicked out. Vegapunk's bloated metal body stopped suddenly and was kicked out. It was embedded in the wall and could not be pulled out. Neither of them paid attention. Vegapunk grinned. Big Mouth smiled cheerfully, and his metallized body felt no pain at all. The metal wall slowly melted and repaired his body. Vegapunk jumped off the wall, rubbed his hands, and looked flattering. He stepped forward and said, Lord Chu Lan's hung, please tie me up today. Oh no, What are the instructions for calling me to come to the Abyss Laboratory? Chu Lan patted his head, walked into the room first, and threw a bitch to him. Nothing else, I just want you to cultivate a plant. Cultivate plants. Vegapunk subconsciously took what Chu Lan handed over, looked down, and was surprised. Is this an ordinary plant? This is the branch of the atom tree. Give yourself this thing and let yourself cultivate it? What do you mean? Do you want me to cultivate the atom tree? I work in metal and I eat it. It's a metal type devil fruit, not a plant type fruit. I don't have the ability in this area. I still prefer robots. Vegapunk looked into Chu Ian's eyes, but still didn't dare to say these words. He was afraid that if he said it, Chu Lan would dismantle him as a robot on the spot. I try my best, Vegapunk said weakly. I believe you, there is no rush. Chu Lan patted him on the shoulder very generously. There is no need to rush this kind of thing. After all, it is the atom tree. Although Vegapunk is the strongest scientist, such unscientific things must still be done slowly. Led Vegapunk into the secret room. There were many strange items placed in the huge open space. The car promised to Aokiji was just the simplest thing among them. In fact, it had been done long ago, but it was lacking just a little bit of training at the end. Your task today is to, Chu Lan kept talking, and Vegapunk listened honestly. The series of tasks are not too troublesome, they are mainly the repair of various things and some things that I need when I am about to go out. These things were all things Chu Lan left behind during her previous travels. Finally, after giving Vegapunk a series of instructions, he was given the last and most important task. That is, build a ship. It is different from the previous ship, different from ordinary warships and any pirate ship. This ship is, aircraft carrier. That's right, it's an aircraft carrier. At this moment, in the Red Earth continent, a huge pit was opened on the side of the New World. In this pit, or in the huge cave, there was a buzz of people, and countless figures were shuttled through it, making it a busy scene. This is a huge dock. It is different from any current shipyard, but a very modern shipyard, full of steel and flames. Many robots are carrying huge pieces of steel, and many ordinary people, humans of other races, and even giants are working in the dock. In the very center of the dock, there was a huge figure that could not even be seen to the side at a glance. But the overall construction is almost completed, and there are various weapons on the ship, all of which are the Navy's most advanced weapons, and even more of them are weapons that the Navy doesn't know about or has even seen. Such a steel behemoth is an unparalleled masterpiece in every aspect. No matter who the enemy is in front of it, it can easily tear them apart. Even if, Big Solo. Don't worry, Lord Chu Lan's Hung, your battleship will definitely be able to launch in 3 months. We will start the first test. Vegapunk couldn't help but grin. This was the greatest thing he had ever built in his life. Compared with it, no pacifist could even be considered trash. This aircraft carrier is no match for the 3 generals on the sea, let alone the pirate group. Even if the Roger pirates, no, even if the Rocks pirates reappear, they are definitely no match. To borrow the words of a certain supernova who has passed away, firepower, the difference in firepower is too big. The firepower gap is really huge. The firepower currently equipped on pirate ships, and even the firepower equipped on warships, is nothing compared to this aircraft carrier. Even if the demon-slaying order is launched, all the firepower is not even as good as a salvo from this aircraft carrier. Moreover, the design of this aircraft carrier is different from ordinary aircraft carriers. It has no carrier-based aircraft. All kinds of artillery shells and even missiles are placed in all open spaces. The missile issue is also the biggest factor limiting its launch.